wonderful. We have 10 minutes. I guess we can do a very quick question now from the Q&A. That's okay, Arjun?
Yes, bring it on.
Bring it on. All right. So the question is, I've been delving into disclosure of all kinds of topics, including medical, economical, political, etc. Recent history has become one of those topics. The idea that churches and government buildings could have been used in a different way throughout history as energy conduits and healing places through now suppressed technology. And this has been brought to his attention or her attention. Is there a truth to this idea?
Many, specifically older churches, but also some newer structures, from amongst others certain institutes, have indeed been built on places on your earth that are either representational for certain ley lines or vortices. To, in that way, the idea was make use of these locational power points, in a sense. We're just looking for the way to translate this best. Some older churches, particularly in Europe, you may find in the mosaics on the ground that they are tiled with, symbols that come from your astrology or from what you now call Wicca or white witchcraft, so to speak, in a church still visible. Because the builders of those buildings at the time knew and understood what was actually being represented by that location and smuggled it into the designs, even though the church was actually built for the Roman Catholic Church, which was often not intending to take any of that information into their lectures, so to speak. So there's been playfulness going about with this throughout the centuries as well. And this is the highest vibrational way for you to look at this if you choose to. Now, understand, if you wish, that in the broader perspective of things, you create the dimension that you're now choosing to believe that you're living in. That means that the entire earth, including its grid work, so to speak, its ley line system and the portals upon the face of your planet are carried within you. You're addressing yourself when you travel. This is what, in a sense, the idea of grid work comes down to. You travel, you journey through the quote-unquote outer body of your inner self, the outer reflection of your inner self. So if you understand that buildings, whatever meaning you choose to subscribe to them, or whatever power you choose to subscribe to them, only have that power when you choose to believe that they have that power, and they only suppress these particular key points on the face of your earth when you choose to interpret them being built there in such a way, then you may feel a negative effect from that in your version of reality. But like we said, and this is why we brought up the mosaic layers, the people, the craftsmen who chose to play with it, incidentally, in the times of the building of some very old churches, like them, you can also choose to be playful about it and see it as marking points that now you know where they are. You can choose to tune in with them and even ask, in a sense, your higher self, what is actually being represented by that part of your seeming outer world, your seeming outer dimensional reality, which is truly your inner self. And you can even travel through time, in a sense, and energetically ask for representations or visions, or even just a knowingness in your heart of what kind of events were taking place there and how you can choose to use that in your life. Because this is truly what it all comes down to eventually, always. How do you choose to respond to the idea of the representations that you see in your surface level of reality? It is not about the circumstances as they're being represented to you, but what you choose to do with them. So you can, in a sense, energetically dig deep down in yourself and in the idea of the outer version of reality to see what was truly being communicated to all of you from that location of your earth, and take the core essence energy of that and apply it in your life, so that then in your outer reality, reflections of that can come to you more effortlessly. And you may have seen perhaps left and right in your physical reality, in your physical dream, that many of these buildings are also being given new functions and often being used for very different, very progressive projects as well, because exactly the people who are in the lineage of the illusion of suppression, we're deliberately putting it that way because there really is no hiding in the end of anything. People who are in the lineage or in the profession of suppression of information and ideas that are core in all of you, they often do not know that the buildings actually represent a suppression of a particular energy field or a coming together of ley lines in a specific way. They're often not even aware of it. This is something that happened often in the past. There was more conscious awareness of these type of locations, and so churches picked them very specifically churches, because you see this very clearly in Europe. Religion had to, or wanted to, better said, take over the old traditions of the Celts and the Germanic and the old original root. We're looking for the translation. Festivities and rituals that were being held at certain locations, and that's why they picked exactly those locations very often to build their buildings on, because then the need for festivities and for rituals would still be fulfilled. It would only be fulfilled from their angle, and so they basically just replaced what was already a desire in people and gave it to them. They answered on an asking, they just answered to it from a very narrow-minded perspective, their way or the highway. And that looks like suppression, but if you understand that in a sense, they've also made these locations very visible and easily to find for everybody else, now you can begin to play with that. And like we said before, a lot of these people who actually quote unquote did that with full consciousness and with the intention to suppress aren't even alive anymore. There's only a handful that are truly aware of this is where the location is at and it's connected to it in that way, which is still in their reality. In that sense, it is a narrative they're telling themselves, which is not in the flow with their actual being, because they think they need something from outside of themselves to underline their strength, which they really essentially don't, and nobody does.
Wow. Wonderful note to perhaps end the event on. I think